Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
We are living in unusual times economically, and it's been this way for a little while. And I've talked a lot about cars and the auto market and how car prices have gone crazy. There's a shortage of cars out there. Manufacturers having trouble building cars due to part shortages, particularly chips, and what's happening to people who need cars right about now. And the same thing is happening in the real estate industry. Houses hit the market and they get snapped up really, really quickly. For sale signs are quite rare because a house can get listed and sold before they have time to pound the sign at the front yard. And I know a couple realtors very, very well. And the stories I hear about what happens in the market now is just insane. And a friend of mine wants to buy a house and was in an area that involved some hot real estate. And a house had gone on the market that he liked, and he made an offer $10,000 over asking price. And his realtor called him back later and said, sorry, the house sold to somebody else who made an offer $50,000 over asking price, along with a contingency of no inspection and a cash close very, very soon. People are buying houses without inspecting them, paying more than the asking price. So that is a hot real estate market, okay? So this story is sent to me by Jonathan from 11alive.com out of Georgia. Home builders cancel buyer's contract right before closing and then sells on open market for more. And that is pretty much what happened here. A public school teacher in Metro Atlanta said recently she learned a tough lesson and has a word of warning for people like her who are trying to buy a house in this hot seller's market. Her builder bailed on her a week before closing and tore up her contract in order to put the house on the open market for tens of thousands of dollars more than she had agreed to pay for it. And she found out that the way the contract was written, what they were doing to her was perfectly legal. So she signed the contract with the contractor in 2021, back in February, for $295,000 to build a brand new house in a brand new subdivision just south off of South Fulton Parkway and Highway 92. The home was supposed to be ready for her to move into by September of 2021. She visited the construction site, watched the home being built, took photos of the various steps in the process, and even paid an extra $5,000 for additional optional upgrades during the build. Now, the completion of the home was delayed repeatedly, but she was scheduled to close in January of 2022. 1 week before the closing, her agent told her that the builder was backing out of the contract and raising the price by tens of thousands of dollars. So if you want to buy the house, you can kick in a ton more money, or you're out, we're going to sell the house to somebody else. Now, of course, she's thinking, wait, I put a down payment, I signed a contract, they're building the house to my specifications. Is that not my house? Well, she hasn't closed on it yet, and of course, it depends on what the contract says. The message from my agent at that particular time was the builder had decided to terminate all existing contracts, and he's increasing the price of the home. And if we wanted to move forward, we had to enter into a new contract with the new price of the home. The new asking price, she was told, was $355,000, which she couldn't afford. But online, the price is listed at $370,000, a 25% increase. I was hurt and a little bit of disbelief, she said. She understands the builder was within his legal rights to do what he did because that's what the contract said he could do. She added, I think ethically, no, he's dead wrong. Now, she got her earnest money deposit back of $3,500, but she's still waiting to get her other $5,000 back. Where did that money go? So 2 months after the contract was canceled, she still has not received her $5,000, which was for the upgrades. So to wait a week before closing to tell someone that you're going to increase the price of the home, I think is ethically not right. She said until she gets her total reimbursement, she can't begin to look for another house to buy because she needs that money presumably for a down payment. She is living with relatives after having moved out of her apartment last year in anticipation of moving into this new house when it was ready. The person who answered the phone at the builder's business recently told 11 Alive she did not work for the builder and did not know how to reach anyone with the company. Hello, and you answer the phone for business. Yeah, can we speak to somebody there? No, there's no one here. What about you? I don't work here either. She does not work for the builder and does not know how to reach anyone with the company. Where do you get your paychecks from? They just appear. The woman says she saw online other people posting similar complaints about this builder canceling their customers' contracts at the last minute in order to find new customers willing and able to pay much more. And I've heard of this story actually happening in other states. I don't think I've done a video on it, but it's happening where as homes are being built, more and more people want to buy them. And so somebody who has got the right to sell the house is in a great position, assuming they're in that position. A response online from someone claiming to speak for the company wrote that the company has no choice but to cancel contracts that, over the course of the construction period, end up too low in price to cover the rising costs of building materials. Prices are just going crazy in every facet of the housing industry, says Atlanta realtor Kevin Maxbury of Maxbury & Associates. Small to medium-sized house building firms are more likely than larger companies to have difficulties paying for expensive materials and holding down cost overruns. He said they don't have the extra cushion to absorb the spikes in costs, and that's assuming that's what happened here. The realtor says there's very little a buyer can do because all builder contracts are what are called unilateral contracts. They're written to protect the builder, that they have many ways out of the contract. It's unethical and unfortunate for the buyer to have to experience something like that. Meanwhile, the woman said that since January, she's been unable to reach anyone with the company. I wonder if she's gotten a hold of the woman who answers the phone but doesn't work there. That's my question. She was able to get the Better Business Bureau to intervene, and the last she heard, the builder is now promising the Better Business Bureau that they are going to FedEx her refund to her. They're going to FedEx it to her. So she should have it quickly, because FedEx does that. Unless your package ends up on a plane with Tom Hanks on board, in which case your package might wind up on an island with Tom Hanks. But that's another story altogether. That was based on a documentary I saw a while back. But this is a bizarre story. But again, what the realtor's getting at is that when you sign a contract to build a house, it can be a lengthy contract, thick contract. And if it's drafted by the builder, you can bet it's got all kinds of ways for them to either get out or cover themselves or recover their money So as you can imagine, if you hired a home builder today and said, I want to build a house 6 months from now, no one in their right mind would even sign that contract unless it had clauses in there saying, well, if the price of lumber goes up, I get to charge you more. If the cost of labor goes up, I get to charge you more. They were talking there for a while about lumber shortages and so on. So there's all kinds of things that you have to look for. But it reminded me of a situation I was in, this is about 15 years ago, but I shared office space with another attorney who worked for me and another attorney who did not. And the guy who did not work for me, but we were very good friends, very, very nice guy. And he was a little bit older than we were. He'd been around for a little bit longer practicing law. And he's a great guy to have around because he was so nice and friendly, but I could go to him and say, hey, I've got an issue here. I've encountered this. And he'd been around so much longer than I had that I could go to him for that kind of advice, and he didn't care. In fact, I think he got a kick out of it, that I'd ask him questions. And we were sharing space in a much larger office suite that had like 20 attorneys in it. And one day I was talking to him and I said, I'm really getting kind of tired of this place. And there's a couple issues I had there. And he goes, so am I. And I go, well, I'm thinking about moving. And the other attorney who works for me and I are thinking about moving to a different place. He goes, can I come with you? I said, sure. Be great to have this guy along. Plus, we can get a better place and cut it up 3 ways instead of 2. So we started shopping around. And at that time, there was a surplus of office space for rent in the general area where our office was. And think the Southfield, Farmington Hills area for Michigan. And we started looking at different places. And we found a place we kind of liked on Orchard Lake Road. And the road's really busy there. But it was a beautiful building with a big parking lot. People could find it, the directions at that time would have simply been, Orchard Lake Road, right off this other road. Boom, there you are. You can't miss it, So we got a tour of the building from the landlord, and it was beautiful. And he showed us one particular portion of the building that would have been perfect. Would have had 3 offices, all windowed, for me and the other two attorneys, and a reception area and a conference room, and it was perfect. It was perfect for us. And the guy quoted a price to us that was pretty good. And he goes, great. We all shook hands. He goes, I'll send over a contract. And my friend agreed to take a look at it, and he would do the first pass, and then we'd all sit down and talk. He came walking into my office, holding this fax that he'd just gotten, laughing, just laughing. Now, this is a guy who's, I don't know if he's ever laughed as much in a day as I laugh in a day, but he's one of these guys where if he's laughing, something's funny. He's got this contract in his hand. And he goes, yeah, I'm just reading this for the first time, and I spotted something that might be a problem for us. And I go, what's that? And about 2 or 3 pages in, apropos of nothing, was a sentence that was typed, and it says, landlord has the right to put you into any unit in that building, notwithstanding what you were shown. The building was a 1-story building, and it had offices around the front, like this, and then conference rooms and stuff. And then it had offices that went around the back, and it had a bunch of offices in the back that didn't even have windows. No. The difference between an office that's got a corner of windows and an office in the back with no windows, that's a big difference, my friends. And so he goes, I've never even seen a clause like that, a commercial lease. He goes, what's even worse is the way it was written. They could have moved us into the suite we liked and then come by and said, oh, we're moving you down the hall. Because it said that they could put us anywhere in the building they wanted to at any time for like any reason on like almost no notice. I'm going, who would sign this? And he goes, not us. And I said, I agree. And I heard him call the guy. And the guy apparently said, oh, that's a standard clause. We put that in our contracts. It's like, I don't care how standard it is. I'm not signing it. And that's the weirdest part about all this, is that apparently in this woman's contract, it says that the builder has the option to back out at the last minute and sell the house to somebody else and just return you your earnest money. And so if that clause is in there that says something to that effect, yeah, then they're within their rights to do this. And was it a nice thing to do? No. Was it legal? Apparently, everyone seems to think it's legal, so it probably was. But I haven't seen the contract. That's why I'm reserving my ultimate statement on that. But when you sign a contract and someone else has drafted it, you got to read it very, very carefully. And I know some people react negatively when they hear an attorney say, you should hire an attorney to review those documents. And people go, what's that going to cost me? It might cost you $500. I don't know. It depends on how thick the document is. And some people are going to say, well, of course you're going to say that. You're an attorney. Well, an attorney would have sat you down and said, you understand that by signing this contract the way it's drafted, they can cancel this contract at any time before closing and sell the house to somebody else. So you've spent all this time waiting, and they've had your money the whole time, and now you get your money back, but you got to start over again. And that's going to be hanging out there. Now, some people are going to say, well, it's in there, but I don't know if it's going to happen to me. Well, it could happen to you. And if it happens to you, look where you are. So that's my advice to you, I guess, is if you're going to be signing a contract for a $295,000 house, paying a couple $100 to have an attorney review it might not be that bad of a thing, because you know this is a possibility going in. Again, this is something that's happening now because of the housing market. 10 years from now, when the housing market's the exact opposite, this won't be happening. In fact, it's going to be the exact opposite, meaning they're going to be trying to jam people saying, you signed the contract, you're stuck with this house. So there you go. But Jonathan, thanks for sending it from 11alive.com out of Georgia. Home builders cancel buyer's contract right before closing, then sells on open market for more because they can. Questions or comments below? Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. A promise is a cloud. Fulfillment is rain.